All right, good morning, everyone. So, first off, just a brief welcome. Everyone who is in this room and in our field came to this because we love animals and we want to help. And you guys show up for the dogs. You don't just show up today, but you show up every day. And we know this work is difficult and emotional and life-changing, and sometimes it is thankless. We are really thankful for every single one of you. And we're here because we share a passion for helping animals and alleviating suffering. So from all of us to all of you, thank you very much. Little Astro, if you don't remember him, he was I think in 2015, we had a parvo outbreak in one of Pittsburgh's shelters, and he was caught up in that and then came to Hello Bully and had a fantastic adopter come and whisk him away. All right, just a couple things about expectations for today and this series in general. So the instruments and tools and resources that we are providing are for you, and you can build upon them based on the unique mission of your organization. You may not agree with all of our beliefs, and it's totally okay. You can take what you like and make changes based on what works for your group. No judgment, no shaming. It's fine that we have different viewpoints. We just ask that everyone treat each other. Don't tweet each other, stay off of Twitter, and treat each other in a spirit of cooperation and collaboration. We're going to be approaching some deep and heavy topics, and we take this seriously. So sometimes we do get passionate, but we can do that while still being respectful. All questions and comments and feedback are welcomed and encouraged. We want all of you to leave this series with a better understanding of the structures and systems that we've developed and that we feel are really needed to do ethical and sustainable rescue. Oh, my heart. So, as I said, while we were in the waiting room, this is going to be a tiny bit of a walk down memory lane for some of us. This is Kitty. She is one of the dogs from the huge case known as the 367. It was a total of 367 American Pit Bull Terriers rescued on a total of 8 yards in 6 states in collaboration through the HSUS and the ASPCA. Kitty was the first dog on one of the yards. They will often put a fearful or aggressive dog on the front of the yard to ward off people who might be coming to steal dogs. It's often not a pit bull. In this case, it was Kitty. So she was rescued. She came to the shelter in Jacksonville. And so between HSUS and Hello Bully, my journey with Kitty spanned 3 years. At one point during her early days, when she was super fearful, she was in the back of our temporary shelter compound in what was called the Adoptions Building. That was the old name for it. And it was ironically where the more fearful dogs were. And it had guillotine doors so that they could go in and out. And I needed to reserve half an hour every night because I had to go and get Kitty to come in through the guillotine. So we built a pretty strong trust and relationship with each other. She also, one morning, someone said, Kitty's vagina is inside out. And she had pyometria, and it was very, very urgent. And I had to just pick her up, unmuzzled, and put her in the back of a car and rush her to the vet. And thankfully, we saved her. So she was with us for almost 1.5 years at Hello Bully. And unfortunately, she was eventually euthanized for level 2 bites and attempted bites to the face. She was just a very, very fearful dog, and there was a side of her that was also super loving, and so she was conflicted. That social conflict where dogs want to be with us but are afraid to be with us can be really, really tough. Um, when we lost Kitty, it literally tore our organization in half. At the time, we were running an all-volunteer shelter. It was big bad, and it was personally really difficult for me to have to advocate for the euthanasia of a dog who I love, and I had more history with Kitty than any of the people who were advocating for her to not be euthanized, and at the same time being really hurtful and vicious, to the people who were advocating to end her suffering. So, as we get into this, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to Kitty. Good girl, Kitty. Without her, we would not be here having this discussion today. And I do believe that this discussion is going to help us do better work, save more dogs. And, as I have gone through getting all of this stuff ready for presenting to you, I've just had the opportunity to, like, I think for the first time since we lost her, just sit back and remember how much I absolutely adored working with her and what a fantastic and brave dog she was. Um, it's important to remember that you can love a dog deeply and still euthanize them to alleviate their suffering. So here we go. All right. We're going to be referencing a couple of documents early on, but this one's really important. So the three documents we're going to be referencing are the Dunbar Bite Scale, the Asilomar Accords, and the Pitbull Rescue Code of Ethics. The Asilomar Accords, just going to give you a quick little tidbit. Asilomar, California, a bunch of professionals get together and try and steer animal welfare in the best possible direction. Um, these huge collaborations are things where, like, the five freedoms get traction, and we just develop better ways of communicating and standardizing the things in our field that are most important. So that's the Asilomar Accords is where these standards and definitions started in animal welfare. The Pitbull Rescue Code of Ethics, you can Google that. There's also a link in this document on our website that you have access to. Basically, it is about the gold standard of pit bull rescue and specifically dogs from dogfighting. It prioritizes dogs who are adults and not puppies. It talks about the temperament of a pit bull, the conformation standards, like what are we looking for in this dog? Who is this dog supposed to be? Like, what's that range look like? What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? And then how do we interface with the public and serve not just the dog in front of us, but this breed who has been facing dogfighting and breed specific legislation and just so much public misunderstanding that we need to find balance. So the Pitbull Rescue Code of Ethics was really instrumental in helping us do our best work early on and having some standards to having some measures that we wanted to live up to. So I do think that's a great document, especially if you rescue pit bulls, and I do encourage you to take a deep dive into that. We are going to briefly just review the Dunbar Bite Scale. So Dr. Ian Dunbar The year I was born, he was already a dog trainer and introducing the concept of lure reward training, which is fantastic. It's been super influential in how we work with dogs today. And Dr. Dunbar has been doing work with dogs of all types, all ages, most breeds. Um, and he's a wonderful source for dog behavior. He also, through his work, has developed this forensic scale that helps us have common language for dog bites. So, level one is just obnoxious or aggressive behavior, but not necessarily skin contact by teeth. There is another scale that calls this a level zero. Um, this is, I like to call these like the bites when the kid runs into the room and says, "Mom, Fluffy bit me." And there's not a mark on the kid, but the dog probably did bite. But the dog was really inhibited and it was a warning bite. It was just a very quick, dogs are pretty frugal when it comes to how much energy they're willing to expend to get the message across. So that's why they have this ladder of signals or ladder to aggression. So they don't have to flip out every time someone pisses them up. They can just be like, "Hey, please stop." So that's what I think of when I think of a level one bite. Level two bite is skin contact by teeth, but no skin puncture. You could see a scrape or a nick, and it has to be less than 1/10 of an inch deep and slight bleeding caused by forward or lateral movement of teeth against skin, but no vertical punctures. So no, the tooth went into the skin. Level three is 1 to 4 punctures from a single bite with no puncture deeper than half the length of the dog's canine teeth. There may be lacerations in a single direction caused by the victim pulling away, owner pulling the dog away, or gravity. So if you think of a little dog jumping up, biting an arm, and then falling. Um, you can also think of the horror story of when a dog latches onto another dog and two people are trying to pull them apart. Um, that's actually probably going to result in a level four. So, level four, 1 to 4 punctures from a single bite with at least one puncture deeper than half the length of the dog's canine teeth. May also have deep bruising around the wound, the dog held on for a number of seconds and bore down, or lacerations in both directions if the dog held on and shook. Um, and there's also different levels of shaking too. A dog can shake his head from side to side. They can also get into that huge figure eight rhythm where they're really like, they're just trying to kill something by whipping the heck out of it. Level five is multiple bites with at least 2 level 4 bites, or a multiple attack incident with at least 1 level 4 bite in each of those incidents. And then level 6, the victim is dead. So the majority of the bites that we are going to be talking about are the level 2 bites. There are not a whole lot of dogs, honestly, who are making it into our rescue who have gone above a level 2 bite. I will say, just for transparency and for your information, that through my behavior consultation business, I do see level 3 and level 4 biters. I got hit in the face and the arm by a level 3 biter last week. The dog did not, there was one red mark on my face and my arm is still bruised. The dogs who are biting at a level 3 and a level 4 usually aren't slowing down unless there's been a lot of intervention, possibly behavior medication, and maybe a huge shift in environment. But I think it's just important to remember that when we talk about bites and how they can be so serious and lethal, we are not assigning any judgment onto the dog. We are saying this with an understanding that dogs have come into these spaces where they feel that they need to warn off and then even go above and beyond that, or maybe even skip all the messages because they haven't been heard before. So when we talk about dogs who are biting at, level 3 and level 4, I don't even want to say that those dogs are bad dogs. Those are dogs with bad problems. The second half of this document, you can read this. It's great information. I use it for my clients. I actually just had to remind a client that um, the that owner compliance, I was like, well, remember, 5 months ago when we started working together, we talked about the importance of owner compliance and how that can be you know, the yay or nay on if things work. The owner's got to be doing what the trainer or behavior consultant is recommending and repeating all of those lessons over and over again. Um, and my client said, "What is owner compliance?" And I was like, "We really did talk about this. It's in my notes." But it's really hard because these are incredibly for dogs who are already owned and in the home. These are incredibly difficult, life-changing relationships. Um, I am constantly, uh, you know, really engaging with folks who are just dealing with a lot of pain, suffering, guilt, grieving, um, and just trauma from dogs who have come into their lives who are not functioning and not safe. So when you do look at this second half of this list, these the prognosis, this is about owned dogs. Okay, so an owned dog has one owner, maybe some support from trainers or consultants, veterinarians. They are working with that dog. That is a huge difference than a dog who is in a shelter or a dog who is in a rescue. I would say that in foster, they are probably getting more consistency. But in a shelter, it is almost impossible to, it's not impossible. It's just very difficult. And you really have to be intentional with your work with these dogs. Every time that you're putting your hands on the dogs, it has to be intentional. So that second part is not really applicable to some of the dogs that we're going to be talking about today. All right, here we go. Hello, bullies, standards and definitions of adoptability. Now, remember, you can take this document and you can change it to fit your needs. So at Hello Bully, an adoptable healthy dog is a dog 8 weeks or older, right? Because they're not adoptable until they're 8 weeks, who, while in our care, have shown no sign of behavioral or temperamental characteristics that could pose a health or safety risk or otherwise make the animal unsuitable for placement as a companion animal. They show no sign of disease, injury, congenital, or hereditary condition that adversely affects the health of the animal or that is likely to adversely affect the animal's health in the future. These dogs are friendly to people and social or tolerant of other animals. These are like our nice, green, easy peasy dogs who we can just kind of let out into the public, give them the resources to succeed. But, these are kind of our ringers. We don't get a lot of these at Hello Bully, I will be honest. Not really our thing to step up for the easy dogs, but it's still important to have this definition in our purview. These animals are generally well socialized. They need little or no financial investment and or time investment to be adopted by a reasonable and caring adopter. At Hello Bully, we give preference to dogs who are 18 months and older, and we provide supplemental education for adopters of dogs born to dogfighting survivors and further precautions when the dog is being adopted before 18 months of age. The reason for that is when a dog is a puppy, you are seeing the childhood version of this animal in their adolescence, we often don't see competitiveness and, most of the issues that present like pathologically, those happen at sexual or social maturity. So the reason that we like 18 months is because you're starting to see the real dog there. I will say, caveat, there's a lot of things that could happen in the next year and a half between 1.5 and 3. So 3 would be an even safer bet. When I have clients going to adopt dogs, I'm like 3 and over. What you see is what you get. So I think it is important. And, I had an emergency call with a colleague group, and this one rescuer had to take back a couple of dogs. Um, and they've been in the home for years. They're really, they're tough dogs. One has a lot of health stuff, one has a lot of behavior stuff, and the rescuer took them back. I do want to say to rescues, you don't have to do that. If you needed someone to tell you that you are free from that, today is that day. You are free from committing to taking animals back for the lifetime of an animal. That is the job of a shelter, maybe a breeder. That is not the job of a rescue who has limited resources. We are always trying to plan so that we are not overwhelmed. Hello now has it in our adoption contract that while we would love to take every animal back, it is not feasible. If you can't keep your dog, please contact us. If it's a dog we just adopted, of course they're coming back, right? But a dog that we adopted 10 years ago that now has health issues, maybe has some bad habits that are really ingrained because they've been doing them for 10 years. That might not be, if we have a hard dog right now and we're saying, oh, we need our next dog to be easy, that might not be a dog that's a good fit for our rescue. And yes, I would love to say for the lifetime, but I actually think that it's too big an ask, especially for small rescues. I don't think that you have to do that. All right, our next 2 categories of dogs. Actually, let me look at the chat real quick to see if we. Okay, no questions yet. Cool. Does anyone have any questions about the AH animals or our adoptable and healthy, easy peasy green dogs? We need more of them, and I don't think we see enough. Okay, so off into our second category, TR, treatable, rehabilitatable. So when you think about the next 2 categories, TR and TM, treatable, rehabilitatable, or treatable, manageable, what we want to think about is this going to get better or is it going to stay the same? So treatable, rehabilitatable dogs are animals who need moderate financial and or time investment to become adopted by a reasonable and caring adopter. TR dogs are free from aggression towards humans, but they may show a limited degree of reactivity to other animals. They require minimal training and or behavior modification to become adoptable by a reasonable and caring adopter. So here are some of the things that would quantify a dog as TR. So mild shyness, dogs with minor handling issues, dogs who are mildly jumpy mouthy. So these are not dogs who are like jumping up and grabbing. They just are kind of putting their feet on you. And these are all, you can look at all of these bullet points here as things that you would see in an assessment or in general day-to-day handling. An assessment is not just that day that you assess the dog. The assessment is every interaction that you have with that dog. Dogs who lack house manners, because let's be honest, we know how to train dogs and teach them how to not do those things and make them good roommates. Dogs who lack impulse control, another thing that we can usually teach and modify through behavior modification sessions. So possible medical conditions for these dogs could be animals who require financial investment to be free of physical ailments or medical illnesses, something like heartworm, maybe, or animals who risk the health status, of other animals of the same and or other species through physical proximity due to a temporary or treatable illness that may be contagious on a temporary basis. So a dog who has kennel cough, a dog who has babesia. So something as simple as kennel cough, got a little, gonna wait until that clears up and then you'll be good to go. So that dog could go from TR to AH. Babesia, that dog, I don't know. They say that that babesia can be cured, but I have seen it pop up in dogs years later. If you don't know, babesia is a blood-borne pathogen that is common in dog fighting dogs. It's like microscopic and needs a lot of like volume and time to be passed. So like it wouldn't happen in a dog fight in a home, like in a little, spat, but in professional dog fighting where dogs have open wounds and are laying in blood for long periods of time, they will transmit it. And then it can also be transmitted in utero. So that could be TR or TM. See, like some of these things are not 100% and you have to have conversations. But let's get into TM. So treatable, manageable animals are animals who are not healthy and not likely to become healthy, regardless of the care provided, but who would likely maintain a satisfactory quality of life if given medical, foster, behavioral, or other intervention. This may include long-term care by reasonable adopters. Medical and behavioral prognosis must be fair to good to meet this definition, and the new owner is going to assume the responsibility for continued treatment. This definition does not include any animal who poses a significant risk to human health or safety, or to the health and safety of other animals. I think I will say that we actually categorize babesia as treatable, manageable, because when we adopted Keanu out to Tina, he had been cleared, but then they tested for babesia. He was negative. He was continuing to have these issues. They tested again and it came up positive. He had been, levels had been suppressed because he was on another antibiotic. So like, there's no way that Hello Bully could see that far into the future. So that's something that you can think about as you determine how you want to, categorize animals at your rescue. So here are some behavioral examples, obviously not all inclusive, but moderate shyness, moderate handling issues, moderately jumpy mouthy, and then mild to moderate separation anxiety. So with separation anxiety, we have to look at the frequency and intensity of their distress. So a dog who whines for 5 minutes when their owner leaves, that dog is not having, they may be having a little bit of separation distress, but we would not categorize it as separation anxiety. Dogs who are, well, we'll get into that in the next, in the next category. But mild to moderate. So whining, barking, scratching that lasts for a few minutes, no serious damage to belongings, and the dog is not harming themselves. Okay. Resource guarding with other dogs with mild signs of single item guarding of food items with determination that the issue can likely be managed by a reasonable and well-informed adopter. So we have had dogs who either need to be fed separately from other dogs, cannot have high value bones or bully sticks with other dogs, cannot have toys with other dogs. So if it's one thing that we can, if it's food or toys or just something that we can say, here's the thing that you need to do to keep your dog safe, then we consider it manageable. Mild food aggression. So, food aggression isn't bad. What's bad is when, first of all, we don't listen to warning signals, or signals haven't been heard in the past, and dogs are feeling the need to, go ballistic when they really maybe didn't need to. And dogs can just be wired that way too. It doesn't have to be, human intervention that made them that way. Dogs who are aggressive to other animals and could likely not be placed into a home with other animals of the same or different species for the safety of all residents within the home. This is, Hello Bully takes dogs who are dogfighting survivors. And we have in the past had dogs who were champion dogfighting dogs, prolific bloodlines and histories. And we have successfully placed them in homes without other animals, and they have lived out fantastic, meaningful, rich lives without incident. You can do that, but you must be absolutely certain that this is the right person for the job. Not everyone can keep up management. People say management fails. It doesn't have to. I've managed a lot in my household, and I've had very few failures. So, I think we have to recognize that the pool out there, the homes, that pool of people who are not only willing to do it, but appropriate to do it, it's a small pool. And if that animal is out in the world looking for trouble when they see other animals, I think we should really think twice. But there are dogs out there who, would never. The dog that I'm thinking of is Hank from the 367. He was just a fantastic dog and would never hurt another dog. But we had an incident where we were walking him through a room and we had a fake dog in there, and they kind of brushed up against each other, and he took that dog out. And it was, he could walk by any dog. It was fine. He just could not be in a face-off with another dog. And we determined that we could give him a life where he would never have to do that. So a lot of consideration needs to go into that one. Animals who have mild to moderate fear of children, they could be under-socialized, but no aggression. Moderately fearful, aggression towards cats, generally reactive. Animals who exhibit moderate escape behaviors. That can be managed with things like air tags, fly collars, high fences, buried fences, topped fences, double leashing. Animals who require a substantial time investment to become adopted by a reasonable and caring adopter. And animals who have conditions that require medication to control or manage behavior issues such as generalized anxiety, repetitive behaviors, and self-mutilation, that also have no related historic connection to aggressive behaviors or actions. So this, dogs who are on behavior medication used to be in our unadoptable category. And as we grew and revisited, and every year at the end of the year, I review these definitions and standards, and we have discussions about, is there anything that we need to change? So that is one thing that we changed, because a lot has happened in behavioral medication for dogs, and it is there are a lot that are low risk and can be super impactful for the dogs. Possible medical conditions and situations may include animals who require continued financial investment to treat physical ailments and or medical illnesses, That would be someone like maybe Stanford. Stanford needs Apoquel for his allergies. We didn't know that when he was in his process of getting ready to be adopted. But had we would have said, yes, this is something that we can say, hey, this is something that you're going to have to take on, and that the owner could run with it. And then animals who risk the health status of other animals of the same and or other species through physical proximity because of non-treatable, permanent, and or contagious illness. All right. I'm going to pop over into the chat window. Why were they, you said, Casey asked, why were they initially unadoptable? Who were you talking about?
I don't know.
Oh. All right. Well, we're going to get to that right now. So here we go. So the final category, and I want to, just before we even touch on this, look away from your screen for a second. We are not saying these dogs have to be euthanized. Okay. We are not saying that these dogs have to be euthanized. We are not saying these dogs have to be euthanized.
Give him to me. Take the other two.
You got him?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
I mean, he's really.
I got him.
Okay.
Okay, I hear some dog stuff going on over at Ursula's. I'm gonna mute her. Okay. So one more time, in case you didn't hear me the first 3 times. These dogs, we are not saying that they have to be euthanized. So sorry, I'm clicking around, trying to get everything ready. Okay, here we go. So unhealthy, unadoptable animals are those who, due to current health or behavioral conditions, are unfit for adoption by a reasonable and caring adopter. So we're not talking about people like us, okay? We're talking about the general public. No one's saying you can't adopt these dogs, but we don't want to put these dogs out into the community. Dogs may be UU on intake if there are reasonable plans, resources, and opportunities for the dog to improve to meet the TM definition, or any other elevated definition. So UU animals have behavioral or temperamental characteristics that pose a healthy or safety risk or otherwise make the animal unsuitable for placement. They're not likely to become healthy or treatable, even if provided the care typically provided to animals by reasonable and caring adopters. These animals are suffering from a disease, injury, or congenital or hereditary condition that adversely affects the animal's health or is likely to adversely affect the animal's health in the future, and are not likely to become healthy or treatable, even if provided the care typically provided to pets by reasonable and caring adopters. These animals are aggressive to a subgroup of humans, so children, men, women, ethnicities. They have serious separation anxiety, so whining, barking, scratching, chewing at doors and windows. It's going to last for an extended period upon and after departure. So we're talking not 5 minutes, not 10 minutes. We're talking dogs who are going into serious distress and they're not able to recover from it. There's going to be serious damage to belongings, chewing, digging, headbutting into walls. They're going to cause harm to themselves, and these can lead to life-threatening, like foreign bodies, needing surgery. So putting those dogs out in the public in that condition is not responsible or ethical. Animals who are highly animal aggressive with a likelihood of redirection. So this is dogs who are aggressive towards animals and will redirect on a person because they are in distress. Dogs who have serious stranger barrier issues, so they're growling, lunging, snapping, or biting when they're behind a fence door, crate door, or other door. We see this in shelters and rescues a lot. We should not be adopting the dogs out when they're in this condition, because for a dog that is healthy and has a decent temperament and can operantly learn and respond to conditioning, that's a fixable issue. Dogs who are aggressive towards children, dogs who are seriously jumpy mouthy. So these are the dogs who are not jumping, they're not bouncing off you for attention or coming up to like be puppyish. They are in a state of arousal or fear anxiety where they are just pushing off you, jumping, ripping clothes. I mean, I think everyone who has ever walked a shelter dog or volunteered at a shelter for a period of time has interfaced with these dogs. Again, that's a workable issue, but in that condition, those dogs should not be going into the public. Serious handling issues. So during any handling test or general handling of sensitive and non-sensitive areas, the dog growls, air snaps, applies teeth with pressure or serious intent to the hand. If they get overstimulated, like they're frantically pawing, jumping, pushing at you, trying to escape, spinning, pacing. Again, those issues for a dog who has the mental capacity, we can improve that. Dogs who are intensely shy, feral, or under socialized. So they may make conscious attempts to avoid people instead of approaching them. They're hiding, they're freezing, they're shaking, they're growling, snapping, and they want people to go away. Dogs who have predatory behavior, including lunging, extreme overt aggression, or redirected aggression resulting in bites at or above a level 2. And then intense escalation of arousal with no calming. I think we've all seen those dogs who are, they just get up into that hyper aroused zone and you cannot get through to them. And it's not because they're stubborn, it's because they have gone to a place in their brain where they just can't be operant. But that could be an indicator that this dog is not going to be able to self-settle. So, that dog is not adoptable in that condition. So what happens with the UU dogs, because you're going to see that we've taken in UU dogs and adopted them out. What happens is we put another level of consideration into them when we take them in if they're already determined to be unhealthy and unadoptable, because we know that there is a higher risk that we are not going to be able to get them to that gold ring and to that standard where they're safe and appropriate to go out into an adopter's home. So this is how we do that at Hello Bully. So when we intake our dogs, they're given a grade and then they're reviewed by me each month, and I include them in a report that's provided to the board. So basically, if a dog has issues, let's say a dog is currently TR for impulsivity, that dog would have that grade, and then it would say, Quinn is just the one that comes to mind with impulsive behaviors and being TR, and just being, he's a young dog, so he's going to be continuing his rehabilitation for like another 1.5 years until he reaches social maturity. But, the dogs who maybe just need manners, right? We need to be looking at that. It is not enough to say that we're going to give it time. Giving it time's the enemy in our field. Time without intention and intervention and resources and oversight is the absolute enemy to these animals. We don't want to rush them, but we certainly do not want to let them languish and at the worst expire on our watch because we haven't been intentional about meeting their needs in a way that doesn't allow dogs to fall through gaps. So in a monthly report, Quinn, for example, Quinn is improving on his, and we have those conversations in a behavior group. So everyone on our behavior team pretty much knows what it's looking like, but it is my job to grade his progress and be on top of that, not just every 30 days, but looking at it every week. Now, if a dog is declining or failing to improve, so say it's something that I feel, I'm looking at the dog, I've worked with a couple of dogs. I'm like, I think I could get this dog good to go in 6 weeks. Say this dog's been with us for 4 months now and they're maintaining. Okay. That's a red flag. That's a red flag. So what needs to happen is I need to present a behavior treatment plan that is going to specifically and with great specificity spell out what we are going to do now, because what we thought was going to work hasn't been working. And now we really need to home in on this and get busy. When we have dogs come in, we don't push them early on because we really do understand that decompression is important, and that building relationships of, that are meaningful and that allow a dog to trust us, and that we've built up some currency with that dog. That's really, really important. There are also times when it is ready to get to work, and get that dog what they need and get them to where they need to go. So plans include timelines of expected improvement, and the information gets disseminated to our behavior team and our fosters, and we all together execute those plans. If there are incidents, such as bites, so any incident with a dog resulting in an injury may be cause for immediate review. If a dog delivers a bite at or above a level 2, an emergency review may be called by any member of the board. And I can tell you that it is. When we have a level 2 bite, we want to stop, breathe, and have a conversation. Volunteers are responsible for reporting any incidents to the behavior director and filling out an incident report. I want to expand on this a little bit and say to any person who is in a shelter or a rescue where there is a feeling that the board and the volunteers are an us versus them, you absolutely must shut that down at your organization, because communication has to be transparent and open and timely and genuine and authentic. It has to be concise. We are talking about the lives of animals here, okay? So what I say to volunteers is, you are not reporting an animal for an incident is not getting them in trouble. It's giving them opportunities to address their issues. Not reporting a bite marginalizes an animal's chance at success, period. If a dog bites you and you didn't report it, that's on you. You have to carry that. And if that dog escalates and goes and hurts someone and doesn't make it out of there, you're going to carry that knowledge with you that, oh, shoot, could I have done something? Well, now we're never going to know. Okay. Sometimes there's nothing we can do. But do you want to be that person who's asking yourself that question in the middle of the night 5 years from now? I don't think you do. Okay. So this is difficult work. These are heavy conversations, but we have got to encourage each other to be transparent and honest. That's the only way that we can help these dogs together, is by we've got to bring our absolute best to the table. And this brings me to what I think is Kitty's legacy. The outcomes of dogs at Hello Bully are determined by our standards. We will never again be in a position where we are having these conversations about an individual dog who has been in our care and in our hearts for years. I will never, ever agonize and suffer and drag other people through that with me because we didn't do the work first. Kitty blessed us with this, okay? When you do this in peacetime, you can head into a war and still walk out with your team intact because you didn't have to make these decisions when it was impossible. So the outcomes of dogs are determined by your standards. Do this work, and then it's there for you. It's there for you to lean on, for you to stand on, and for you to fall back on. Because we believe in transparency, and because we understand that we are emotional when it comes to these dogs, and we cannot always see things objectively when we've been involved with these dogs for a long time, it's also important that we bring in fresh eyes. So Hello Bully involves outside behavior professionals for any case where behavioral euthanasia is being discussed. And we actually have a 6-month marker too, that if a dog has been with us for 6 months and isn't improving, I'm going to reach out to other behavior consultants and say, is there something I'm missing? And those recommendations weigh in our decisions. So this is super important. And I hope that I can empower you to create things like this at your rescue, so that you don't have to suffer. The Dunbar Bite Scale, as we said, it's specifically for forensic grading. It's not for behavioral prognosis. So use the top half, not the bottom half. And level 2 bites that occur during play are reviewed. They can be excused on age, experience, history. If we're playing tug with a dog and that dog's never played tug before and we're trying to teach them like a trade and they nick our finger, we're not euthanizing the dog for that, okay? We're going to say, oh, shoot, I guess I should have been wearing handling gloves when I was teaching this 50-pound dog to play tug. And bites that occur due to physical pain or distress are reviewed and also may be excused based on circumstances and assessment of future risk. This often happens when a dog has delivered a bite during a healing process or a medical procedure. If we know that in the future we could muzzle that dog, we're going to excuse that bite. That is not a reason to euthanize a dog. So to kind of prove that what we do and what we have developed here, that this instrument works, I took a sampling of our last 10 dogs. And a lot of you are going to be familiar with these dogs. I will just give you a quick, like 2 sentences about them. So Opie, a dog from a hoarding case where there were more dead dogs on the property than live dogs. He had a really rough start. He was an A-grade dog from the ASPCA. We took him in as treatable, rehabilitatable. He remained TR in our care. We adopted him out. He's still rehabilitating, and his owners are actually going to be adopting a second dog because he does benefit from a helper dog. And he's doing great. He was a tough case, but he maintained what we thought he was throughout. Buzz, we thought he was a TR. Turns out he's a golden baby who is, I love the AH. The Asilmar Accords, actually, their version says HA for healthy adoptable. We flipped it because in behavior, HA is human aggression. So, but I also like that it's like, oh, those are the easy dogs that are just little gifts that, that go out there and, they kind of refill our tank for some of those more difficult dogs. So it's important for your rescue to have a little bit of balance, and take some easy dogs. Celebrate your wins. Take the W. Buzz was another TR who came to R. He had heartworm, so that's why he was TR, and he was adopted to one of our volunteers. Eloise, wild shelter puppy with a goofy leg, came in TR, went out TR, went into a home with an older male dog, doing fantastic. Benedict, another A grade for behavior, but did have some medical stuff and does have a little bit of, he's a little bit shy when it comes to novelty. He was from a hoarding case in New York City where there were a large number of shorty bulls in someone's little apartment. But he is adopted and he belongs to one of our board members. Sophia was a shelter dog who we took, who was returned. Sadly, her owner passed away suddenly. She's treatable, manageable for her. Just she is a generally shy dog. She is from a puppy mill, so we think she's kind of always going to have that demeanor. So we graded her TM. Totally adoptable though. Her best friend is a 9 or 10-year-old girl who is wonderful, and her mom's a veterinarian, so she will never be heard from again, I suspect. Quinn, his mom is on the call today, came in as TR, a 1-year-old wild thing who grew up in a shelter, was seized as a puppy in a dog fighting seizure, remained TR, is still a work in progress, and that's fine because aren't we all? Tess. If you haven't seen Tess's video, it is pinned to the top of our Facebook page. We will be talking a lot about Tess over the next few weeks. You will be seeing her assessment where she was a completely shut down blob of a dog suit. There was absolutely no behavior. At the end of the test, I brought in another dog and I saw a couple of little sparks. And I asked one of the shelter people to take her home overnight just to see. I was like, it might be the worst night of her life. And if it is, I apologize. But they had a dog at home. And I said, I think that this whole picture is way too much for her. I think she's got trauma on trauma on trauma. Let's get her out of this environment and put her with another dog and just see what happens. And I was in a hotel that night and I got a text from April and it just said, oh my God. And Tess was following the other dog around. Her body was loose. She was, she wasn't happy, but she was neutral. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't stuck. So we said, we can step up for this dog. In our care, she went back and forth because she had cancer on her head. She had a dozen or more teeth pulled. She's had a lot of things go on. But she was fostered with Steph and Stanford, and they just really kept her going. They kept hope alive, even in those first 2 weeks when we were like, what have we done? Are we going to see anything? She really gave Tess the patience that she needed and that time and gentleness and support, and just a soft place. And Tess ended up being adopted by Steph's aunt. And if you watch the video, you will see that she has some some cat friends who are, it's just really magical. It's really, really magical to see what she was in that environment and who she is today. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. She was never UU. She was UU on intake. She was back and forth between TR, TM. But we'll be talking a lot more about her. We'll also be talking about Sean, who was, he was my top pick of the case. He actually was not available at first because one of the kennel workers was going to adopt him. And I was like, let us know if anything falls through. He had splayed out elbows, but a really lovely, oh, I'm sorry, a really lovely temperament. And we were excited to take him on. He was on the younger side, and in our care, he kind of bounced all over the place. His progress kind of hit a point and then stopped, and then just kept dipping and surging and dipping and surging. And we will talk more about it, but we did go, we did the full boat with him. We did as much as we could to rehabilitate him and get him to adoptable. And what we landed on was that he had developed idiopathic aggression. We have some videos that I don't even know that we're going to watch of just his kind of outbursts. And it was just seeing a really different dog than a dog we knew and loved. It was really difficult for everyone. And he was in multiple fosters. He was mostly with Emily and I. And then he was also with Kristen. And it just, when I look at how that played out versus how Kitty's situation played out, I'm just so glad that we had these systems in place, because I can say with 100% certainty that we did everything that we could for Sean and that we didn't miss anything. We didn't miss anything. We were so thorough. And I do think it makes it just a little bit less heavy. It doesn't make it easier. There's still grief and pain and sorrow and guilt, and you go through all of those different emotions that happen when you lose someone you love. But there wasn't the infighting. We had each other. We had each other's backs. Actually thinking about it now, I'm kind of overwhelmed with how present we were for each other, and how strong our team was. So, I want to illustrate to you how meaningful these tools are. It's just words on paper, but if you put it into practice, it can really, really improve. Even your worst outcomes are a little bit easier for the team. And then because we needed 10 dogs to round it out, because I like my 10s. Kylo was from the Star Wars dogs, came to us as TR, one of the biggest question mark dogs I've ever known in my life. I had to put a muzzle on him for his dog test, and at the time he had a broken nose. And I was just, I thought about him all night, and I was like, oh my gosh, this dog, buddy, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want to be doing this to you. And I, when we were talking about like who we were going to bring to Hello Bully, I'm like, am I like fluffing him up because I feel bad? I'm like, no, I'm just going to say it. This dog's a question mark, but there's something about him I really like. And he turned out to be, for those of you in Pittsburgh, he was adopted by the founder of Sisters PGH, which is our amazing local nonprofit that provides resources and help to trans people of color. And she has another pit bull named China. So Zeus and China just have this incredible life. We're friends on Facebook. I get to see his this dog, he is great with kids. He is great with other dogs. He is great with cats. He is great with everything. And Sierra actually is in the process of, she has chickens now. She has baby chicks. So now I'm referring to him as Farmer Zeus. He's really just an exemplar. He is that dog that everyone is like, why aren't we breeding that dog? He's got it all. So really, like, once in a while you bring a dog in and they surprise you in the good way. Zori was TR, stayed TR, was adopted into a home with 2 kids. She has a little bit of hyperactivity. Um, she can be a little squirrely sometimes, a little bit fearful. But when her family met her, we did 3 meet and greets with them and had the kids present. And we could really see that this was a family who managed kids and dogs the way that kids and dogs should be managed. So that's just 10 dogs who went through this system, and this is what it looked like. So I would say that I think that we're onto something here. This is good stuff. All right. So now we're into some secret squirrel stuff because this dog is coming to us later on this week. So meet the dog formerly known as Skateboard. We couldn't have that. So her name will be Kate Ford, AKA Katie. So she is coming to me on the 8th. Now, this is not a document that goes out to our whole organization, but whoever the point people, like your behavior person, your medical person, your adoptions team, your foster team, they should be aware of these dates. But whoever is really like ultimately in charge, whoever your director is, they should be doing this, and they should be the person who makes sure that these dates get met. So ASPCA to me, and then I'm driving her to Heather. All of our dogs go through a 3-day triage shutdown. So in the first 72 hours, many of you know that cortisol, all that adrenaline from the transport, from the move, everything's got to like level out. So at the very bare minimum, we want to give them 72 hours before we are making any assumptions or judgments about their behavior. Then after the triage, we will announce her to the public and say, hey, check out this sweet girl who, was from a hoarding case, has bad feet, had multiple surgeries, like all this stuff. She will continue her shutdown for 2 weeks, and we will do weekly check-ins. And then the week of 222, we will reassess her, and we will make her available for applications for foster to adopt or adoption. Basically, once a dog is made available, that means that people can apply. They can schedule what we call meet cutes. And so then we have all these other dates that spawn off of that. But these are the dates that we know are coming. We have not received her final medical packet yet, but when we do, that will go to our medical director, and we may be adding additional dates. I always make an appointment for a dog for a month after they get here. And sometimes I cancel it. Usually I don't. Either I use it for that dog or another dog, but she does have one appointment scheduled in case she has anything that we need to address. And the reason we schedule it a month out is because this dog's coming to us, and we're kind of a fresh new environment. If we're going to do vet visits, we want to bring her there once for just a happy visit. We're going to do another visit just to get her weight. And then on the 3rd visit, we're going to do her vaccines or her wellness exam or whatever it is that she needs. But we're going to build her up to that. Now, maybe this dog has been through a bunch of vet stuff, doesn't need it. But I would say that for most of the dogs that Hello Bully takes, we're going to try and give them a little bit of buffering. I hope you found all of this information helpful. It's a lot, but we encourage you to print this out, go over it with your team, make your notes, make your changes, and make it your very own. I think that one of the things, again, that I've seen as I was getting this together is just how valuable this instrument is for the work that we do. Next week, we're going to be jumping into assessments. How do we assess dogs? What can it tell us? What can't it tell us? And what we do when a dog is unable to be assessed for medical reasons or behavior. Some dogs are just so shut down that there's really nothing to look at. So we will be diving into that next week. Thank you all again for your time and for all the work you do for the animals. Have a great day.